you said something, and I guess we'll probably talk a little bit more about this guy individually a little bit later, but within maybe it was a couple weeks ago, maybe it was even longer than that, but when it was clear like Ayuk wasn't just back in the rotation, but he was playing well, like the Niners deserve credit for handling that way, handling that situation a little, I would say, unorthodox in 2021. I don't want to say the NFL is the NBA as a players league, but he had a walk-off touchdown today. They just had a walk-off touchdown in overtime on the road against a team that, again, we view the Bengals different than they actually are until you watch them and realize, God, this team's pretty good. Like that's a good win. Beating the Bengals on the road. They're 7-6 now. I mean, the Bengals are going to get to 9 wins. Like that's probably a fringe playoff team. And Ayuk was excellent today. And he had a walk-off touchdown. Like that's a pretty big deal in the NFL to have a walk-off touchdown.
Yeah.
So I give them, credit for just having him. Like they would not have. We'll talk. Obviously, they did the whole crew of guys, but he was huge for them.
He was, and I think it goes back to kind of what you will. He makes consistently difficult big plays. Consistently difficult big plays. He just does.
Very good contested catch player for sure.
Yeah. He just has become, for a guy that it seemed like was inconsistent, now he's really consistent. And I think one thing that's consistent with the Niners all year through everything is that it's going to be a roller coaster when the ball's in the air. And, that right now, because of just their lack of depth at running back, I think when we made the Niners our lock of the week this week, we did not expect Deebo Samuel to play, right?
No, not at all.
And we've just seen, because of their lack of consistency right now at running back, they don't have a ton there. I mean, Jeff Wilson got 13 carries. Deebo got 8. All right.
I thought Jeff Wilson was actually pretty good today. Like I just thought he was, had just a solid showing for a backup running back.
He was, but they weren't going to win the game just on running the football against the Bengals.
No. I mean, like they only scored 26 points, and obviously 6 of them were in overtime. Deebo Samuel accounted, like his one touchdown was massive. Because again, his one touchdown is not, on the 2-yard line, they gave it to him on the end of the round. It was a 27-yard down the sideline where it's like, how's he stay in bounds? And he just walks right in the end zone. Like it's probably under 50% chance they score on that drive, because as we saw all game long, like they struggle to score touchdowns. It typically takes a remarkable play by one of their skill guys. And when Deebo's healthy, they have the advantage for the wrong. They just have the luxury of just being able to literally line him up in the backfield and hand him the ball. Like the Bengals, I guess the Bengals have Joe Mixon, so they can just do that, but they don't do that to Jamar Chase.
Can we talk about let's just rattle through some other things from this game before we really zero in on some conversations. The pick 6 that wasn't alternate universe walk-off touchdown at the end of regulation when the Niners are driving for Robbie Gould to miss a game-winning field goal. And Bengals, do you think was that going to be a pick 6 to end regulation for the Bengals?
It would have taken a pretty remarkable play by Kittle, who was flat-footed, to probably catch him in the open field. It would have been, I would say, 68, 70% he's in the end zone, yeah.
If I'm in the Bengals locker room,
it was Bates, I think.
Oh, Jesse Bates?
Yeah.
For the rest of the night, that's all I'm going to just right there in my hands.
Well, a little inside the podcast, we already had another topic like Trey Lance should start against Atlanta if they lose that game. So it's
that's right.
The alternate universe in football is, especially the way the Niners play these games, is a caught ball by a defender, is a missed field goal, is a Jimmy Garoppolo fumble, right? I mean, their margins for the 49ers margin for error right now is 0. They have none, right? There's no lead safe enough. Guy, they were up 14 points 5 minutes into the fourth quarter. It's like, and in full control of the game, but they're never in full control of the game. So you never feel comfortable. Like, oh, they can score in 2 plays, because they can't. You just hit a deep ball. The Niners benefit every time you run the football against them, right?
Well, that's what we kept thinking when the Bengals ran it back-to-back plays. They ran it on second down. No.
They ran on first and second down in overtime. That led to the field goal. It's insane. Insanity.
And, guys, what are you doing? Thank you, but what are you doing?
3 wide receivers who every time you throw it to them are wide open. I mean, Higgins and Boyd across the middle. It's like, hey, there's T. Higgins right across the middle. Where's the Niner defender? Well, not 15 yards radius anywhere close. It's like, why don't you just keep running that play? They overthought themselves a little bit.
They did. They did. And at the end, what did they set up? A 3rd and 4, I think is what it was. But still, I mean, it's just when
Coach hasn't been in these games.
No, they haven't been in these games. Yeah. The Bengals just haven't been. Like, I think one thing is clear with them is they're going to be.
But I mean, specifically him as a play caller. Like, that just feels a little inexperienced, right? It's like, you have something that's working here. Like, I'm not against giving it to P. Ryan or Joe Mixon, the little Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma, Bob Stoops combination, but the Niners cannot cover you. They can't. Now, they can sure celebrate the hell out of a drop or an overthrow, because no one can celebrate better than the 49ers on when you screw up a pass attempt.
I never understand corners where it's like the ball's out of bounds. It was only 1st and 10. They are targeting you like a deer out in the open, and they're going to come right at you the next play. You really going to celebrate like that's it? Like that's all? It's all fiend. It's over? Like, no, it's about it's coming again on the next play. But sure, that was all you. Yeah. The ball was 5 yards out of bounds, but that was you. It's incredible.
And today was a good example, big picture, where it's like, listen, Ambry Thomas, hopefully he's okay. He was down at the end of the game, but gave up some massive plays. I do think fans, the consumer, can live. It's like, whoa, he's getting smoked. Well, yeah, I've been watching older guys that are not going to be on the team. You just draft this guy in the 3rd round, like live and die with him. Like we did it with Akello Weatherspoon for a couple years, and then you realize he's just not good enough. But it's corners hard enough. This is where I go back to, like, if you just would have played him all season, maybe we just would come away at the end of the year, he's the worst player on the team. Maybe he would just get better. But now, one thing Archuleta said, and listen, these guys are just reiterating what they're being told in these meetings, like, they really need these guys to step up. Well, yeah, because they're desperate. Where were they in terms of developing these guys and giving them a chance to rep in earlier in the season against shittier opponents? It's like, hey, Ambry, first start. Part of it is just injuries. Second, it's Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Both guys, one guy sat out the year and he went 5 overall. The other guy was the number 1 overall pick and led arguably the greatest college team ever and made the Bengals respectable. Good luck, kid. It's like, I can't get behind the development of their defensive backs this year. You know, when ultimately the thing with corners, probably a little bit like, I would say running backs in a lot of teams, right? Just naturally, guys end up playing where, why didn't you just play some of these young guys, even if it was just in rotational situations? I understand with the quarterback. Well, I disagree. You know, I understand. I disagree in terms of like not, you know, infusing him in, but I do understand what he's saying. Like, I don't know what's coming. He's not lying. But with DBs, you can rotate however you want, right? Like if you wanted to be like, hey, Josh, you come off every other series, like it's like, okay, whatever. It's not, wide receivers do it. Debo and right, you can transition however you want, and they've shit the bed a little bit on that situation to put a kid in a tough spot.
I agree to a point, but then I disagree strongly on one part of that, which is I'm with you. They have not developed these 2 corners who they need, Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore. But I also don't think being in a game and looking bad in a game is proof that you should have played earlier, because if that's what you look like in practice, the conclusion shouldn't be, well, he's getting burned in practice, let's put him in more games to help him develop in game.
The other guys are getting smoked too, guy. I get it.
I get it, but at the end of the day, like, they're all practicing together. They want these guys. They want Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas badly to be contributors. I would think they would give them, I'm not going to say the benefit of the doubt, but they would love for them to be on. They would love for these guys to be on the field. I do think the way they handled Ayuk buys them a little bit of leeway here and understanding that maybe these guys haven't earned the right to play. Like, you get your playing time.
But it goes back to all their DBs, besides like Mosley, who's just in and out of the lineup with injuries, are getting smoked. So, like, why is Norman on scholarship?
Well,
that's just my question.
Yeah, Norman's at least, I think, trustworthy probably to them. We know what you're getting out of him. He's going to get burned. He's going to miss some tackles, but he forces fumbles, whatever. I'm not a big fan, but I think he's better than Ambry Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, Ambry Thomas was getting spun like a dreidel all day today.
So I guess my point is, in conclusion, you and I reached the same conclusion. It is on them that they either misidentified him or haven't developed him. I wouldn't just give him playing time if he looks bad in practice. Right.
No. But my point is, when you already have a bunch of question marks at that position,
I hear
guys,
I'm saying,
you can just infiltrate them in throughout the season and just give them certain situations.
Maybe. I'm just saying I think it's reasonable to watch him and go, the other guys that look bad in games look better than him in practices.
It's been pretty bad all the way around for the.
I know, but I mean, he got burned so bad on that Chase play, and again, Chase is good that he couldn't even get close enough to commit. He tried to commit an intentional pass interference on the game-tying touchdown, and he was so far behind he couldn't do that.
What about the other play that he gave up where Joe Burrow looked like Tony Romo and Jamar Chase just kind of ran and just
I thought that was
ran a little
Hufunga
loose?
who got lost there on the end back
Him
line.
too, but I mean Chase was on him to begin
That's
with.
a tough play. Like, yeah. I mean, that one is like scramble drill. It's hard. Like, I don't know how long you can cover.
Sometimes you got to tip your hat to the offense, right? I mean, there's two
Yeah.
guys making remarkable plays that, I mean, they made Ed Ogeron a millionaire, right?
Max said, let's just get a couple comments here, John, on the stream. People reacting. Max says Jimmy Garoppolo was good at the end. Agree?
Well, he did throw the pick six that got dropped, at the end of regulation. The
Well,
final
in that
drive,
case,
he
he
was,
took
the
the
final
touchdown
drive, he
guy
was
you-
good. The
He got him
one
in
play
field
that got
goal
him into field. Yeah, was that a good throw or just an incredible catch?
Incredible. The Kittle catch was more incredible catch than good throw. Put it only where he can catch it, John.
Yeah.
But I give Kittle catch on that. But, I thought there were times where Jimmy threw into traffic in tough spots and completed the ball, both to Ayuk. And it was a trust your stars kind of game. Ayuk and Kittle and Debo. Juwan Jennings. I remember you and I did a video when Juwan Jennings was drafted. And for a year at the time, we said, he's not going to contribute right away. He didn't. But it was clear they liked him, developed him, whatever. I don't know who specifically gets the credit. He is. What game was it? The Seahawks, the first Seahawks game. Well, there was a game early in the year. No, I think it was a win where he was in a lot, didn't get any targets, but was blocking and blocking and blocking. I mean, Juwan Jennings deserves a major tip of the cap because he has earned his playing time based on his blocking first and foremost. And he's actually become a guy who's made some big plays for them receiving. And, again, I don't know specifically who gets all the credit, but it starts with him. He gets a ton of credit because he earned his way on.
I call him Crabtree.
Have to.
Yeah, looks like Crabtree. A little bit bigger version of Crabtree.
Looks like him a lot.
Yeah, I
Crabtree,
like Crabtree Jr.
Crabtree, as we looked at his college numbers over the weekend, because you pulled up Devontae Adams' college numbers over the weekend. Crabtree's college numbers over the weekend were just stupid. I mean,
they were basically identical, the two of them.
Yeah.
And
Crabtree won the Biletnikoff. I did. I had looked at Crabtree's a couple days ago, and when you posted Devontae's on Friday, I was like, God damn, I think those were as good as Crabtree's numbers when he was by far the best receiver in college football. I mean, dominant. And they were almost identical.
Devontae got, I think, kind of screwed because he wasn't a Power 5 guy. Because if you did that at Washington or Texas, no way Devontae Adams goes in the first round. Right?
Yeah.
No, he had 233 catches in 2 years and 38 touchdowns. 24 his sophomore year.
You say the same thing about Derek Carr at that time. We'll get off track here, but didn't Crabtree have like a crazy game-winning touchdown against Texas or something like that?
Yeah, he held the ball out, remember?
Yeah. So he had his Biletnikoff moment.
Crabtree was sweet. I mean, I'm a Crabtree fan, and when I say that, it's not a shit talking. I always like Michael Crabtree, and I like that number 15 just kind of works on wide receivers. I like a good odd number on my wide receiver.
David C. on the stream says this was a battle of who could do enough not to lose. They both wanted to beat themselves.
The Niners were definitely getting some football gods throwing them some bones. They had a muffed punt twice in the first half. And
they stepped up, John. Their special teams really stepped up.
They recovered a couple muffed punts. They had a missed field goal. Jamar Chase, he had some drops early in the game. You're like, I see. The drops have been an issue for him.
First drive, he had a big third down drive.
Now, you also see enough where you're like, I'd live with the drops, because he had 2 drops, but he also had 5 for 77 and 2 sweet touchdowns.
Are you counting the drop touchdown, quote unquote, as a drop?
I'm counting. What was the drop touchdown?
The ball that hit the ground.
Yeah, that's kind of unfair, huh? That's a really tough catch. I would probably not, but I bet he would tell you I'm a Pro Bowl level guy. I got to make, I'm a number 5 overall pick. I got to make that catch. But You're right. That's a difficult catch. But I think you can see he's not always, and I read some quotes that he had this week. He's like, sometimes I double catch. I just got to get better. Like I think he's still fighting it for a guy that clearly, if that goes away, like if he just in the next couple of years or drops on an issue, you're looking at a star player.
Yeah.
I mean, he already borderline.
He's he's just terrifying. When Fred Warner yelled tails and it was heads, and Fred went back, if you didn't see the coin toss, I tweeted the video. Fred Warner, it felt like they just lost the football game when they lost the coin toss. In his mind, he's like, ah, shit, 20's about to get 9 throws his direction. He backed away. He walked away. The ref's like, hey, what side do you want to defend, man? Fred was gone. He thought he lost the game.
He was rattled. but here's the thing.
Because of Chase is my point. And T. Higgins.
And Higgins. I mean, you're looking at two guys that accounted for 10 touchdowns, 100 and basically 200 yards, a couple touchdowns, and Burrow. Like you're looking at the number 1 overall pick, the number 1 pick in the second round in Higgins, the number 5 overall pick. Like you're facing 3 blue chip. I mean, Chase and Burrow truly are. I think Higgins is becoming like he's got to be right now one of the better number 2 wide receivers in the league. Like you just watch him. He's big. He's fluid. Like it's just you're playing 2 good. Like that's a really good offense. Mixon's a stud. That Huzama guy, I mean, who's been making plays since that Thursday night game, he's fucking pretty good.
Yeah.
Boyd's not bad. Like that's a real team. That's a real balanced like offensive firepower that the Niners were just holding on for dear life. This goes back to what I'm saying about Ambry Thomas. It's a very difficult spot. And again, the reason he started was because Mosley, has a high ankle sprain. But that's a tough spot to come in as a rookie corner in December and you've never started a game.
Yeah.
Regardless how it got there, I'm giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Like that's just
giving him some grace, John.
Well, hasn't Chase and these guys been lighting every dude they've been playing? Like they lit up Marlon Humphrey. They've attacked good DBs.
Yeah, I honestly, it's crazy for maybe we disagree with some people. I didn't watch Ambry Thomas and think like this guy just can't play, given who they played. Like next week Atlanta, put him back out there.
Oh,
I'm with you on that.
They don't have a choice, really.
Yeah. No.
But this is what I'm saying. So, like, Atlanta is a much easier test next week than these guys, even though, as we'll get into it, like, for whatever reason, when the Niners play the Falcons, that game always feels tight. You and I went to the stick game when the Niners were good and the Falcons were terrible, barely beat them. This year, the Niners, I would imagine, are going to be a 5-6 point favorite going into that game. I will not bet the Niners -6. I can already tell you that. If that's the number, 6 or higher, I ain't touching that.
Well, here's what's happened consistently, and I had someone tweet at me today like, "Why is this your lock?" I'm like, in the third quarter, I was like, "Well, what do you mean? Why is it not my lock? Our lock." The Niners do this where the Lions game was a warning on how to start the year, how some of these games are going to look, where sometimes they don't score touchdowns late in the second half, not late, just in the second half. Games that they should pull away that you think are 14-point games that should become 28-point games just stay 14-point games or 13-point games or a missed extra point or a missed field goal. So, they're better than Atlanta, but it feels like here's the one thing. Atlanta's had plenty of practice defending wide receivers that are running backs because that's what Cordero does. That's all really,
Well, Al-Shaair hurt his elbow. They immediately say questionable, which clearly, I think most NFL teams, when a guy has an injury that's not like an ACL, they say questionable, right? That's not like your season's over. Within 20 minutes, they called him out. That's something to keep an eye on. Like he had, I think, 11 tackles when he went out. Like he was
still led the team for the game.
He is a tackling machine. So when him and Fred are on the field together, their team speed at linebacker is pretty good. So even when they miss tackles, like the one thing I noticed today, and this goes back to the Bengals, they have really good skill guys. Like they have guys that just make guys miss in open space. Like I don't get that mad if T. Higgins or Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon make you miss. Like they make everyone miss. But those guys are there fast. So, and Al-Shaair has become, I'd have to get like into the weeds and text some people like that are really banging the tape. But I think he's had a better season this year than Fred Warner. So, but even Fred, even if he's not having the best season, he's still damn good. So you get the both of them on the field. That's a lot of tackling power between those two guys.
Yeah, they both had a shot at the pick that turned into the Jamar Chase first down play late in the game, regulation. But he's everywhere. 51's everywhere.
He's a good player. So you just got to pray that it's not like whenever the team does out, that's usually not like, it's just a little nick and bruise. Like could be the season, right?
What did they do when Debo was out? Did they go questionable? Or did they say out?
They went questionable.
What's
his name? They went out was McGlinchey.
Yeah,
he had the thing with this. They just go out. You're like, oh, that ain't good.
E-Rock Village says, do you think we got good Jimmy or bad Jimmy Garoppolo today? I think you got good plus Jimmy. I mean, in winning time, like let's pull up overtime here. Kittle for 8 yards. Then they get the false start on Kittle. Okay. Garoppolo then hits Juwan Jennings for 25. Then he hits Kittle for 21. Then, the dump down to Hasty.
How
then
many
Debo
yards?
carry. Hasty?
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
Then Debo carry for 2. Are you doing math over there?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to start back up?
No, I got you. I wrote it down.
Then Garoppolo to Kittle for 9. He gets 11 yards on the Ayuk play. I mean, which he actually should. I mean, it was a throw. But, I mean, it's designed a little differently. But,
How many yards was the Ayuk touchdown?
11.
So he was 6 of 6 for 77 yards on that play, on that drive. You can't ask for anything
That's
more.
good Jimmy. I mean, it's like, that's Jimmy is actually the better way to put it. And this is why I say, like, we go back and forth on him all the time. He can win you games. He can lose you games. He can almost throw a pick six. He can throw a touchdown. The thing that there's really one thing that you never get from Garoppolo, and that's hitting deep balls. That's it. And we saw it again today. Like, should Travis Benjamin have caught the ball? Yes. Was it a 61-yard? The ball had a hang time of 3.38 seconds. I timed it at 61 yards down the field, the ball that Benjamin had to come back to. It happened like 10 minutes after Justin Herbert threw his touchdown throw. So Garoppolo's went 61 yards in 3.38 seconds. Herbert's went 63 yards, 2 yards further in 3.03 seconds. So 3 seconds, 0.3 of a second faster, which doesn't sound like much, but it's the difference between a completion and incompletion. And it's not a new shocker. We know he doesn't have Justin Herbert's arm.
You remember Raul Mondesi?
Yeah.
Right fielder for the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Did he have a cannon? He had a cannon tattooed on his arm. And I was just thinking, like, I would say Ankiel. There have been several guys that just in the outfielder. The A's guy, is it not Luzardo, Larinato, whatever their outfielder that throws fucking hoses from the outfielder, the little guy.
Ichiro, I'd say.
You can just throw like balls on a rope, even if it's like even Herbert's today goes high, but it had a lot of power behind it. It felt like Jimmy was Coco Crisp in the outfield, put his entire body on the ball, and it still barely got there, and it just hung and hung and hung and hung. Is it his fault that he didn't catch it? Of course not. They dabble play to Travis Benjamin. But his arm is just, pretty weak.
This is what it is. Yeah. But again, that's not like my point is, and when I bring that up, that's a great point. Herbert does throw like a baseball player. Herbert was a pitcher. Herbert's deep ball, you know whose deep ball it looks like actually? With more consistent accuracies, Kaepernick's. Just it's a long ball. You know what I mean? Like it just cuts.
Guy, he was moving, stopped, and the guy never broke stride. That has to be the best throw of the season so far, right?
I mean, I would guess if we collected the 10 best throws of the season, there'd be another Herbert throw or 2 in there.
It was sweet. He's a badass.
Yeah. Mondesi Moose says Mondesi is in jail in the Dominican Republic right now. He was a corrupt mayor and took money. LOL.
He was a little ahead, before his time. He would have been.
But that prison league baseball team, John, he's betting cleanup.
The one thing, the Trey Lance conversation that we would have done if they lost, which would have been, I think, valid. Where I would defend Kyle's pushback to everyone that would want to see him in a tight game. Like, let's say Trey had been in the second half, or really just the fourth quarter as the game got tight and you had to make big throws. The one thing Jimmy has that I just would not have faith that he has, his knowledge of the playbook that allows Kyle to call every play, and whether the ball's in the right spot or not in terms of he gets it out fast enough, the trajectory on the ball, he knows where he's supposed to go with the ball, given the play and given their coverage. And I do think in this, like today, I don't know if you win this game, Trey, tie game, fourth quarter, right, overtime. Like, I would not have any confidence. It's unfair, right? It's Ambry Thomas level. It's
no,
like you never rep this out.
Yeah, part of talking about Trey Lance, which is not a big conversation today, like you said, because they won, but it's all, that conversation is not 100% Trey Lance is better than Jimmy, you'll win more games with him. It's part of that conversation is about player development. It's never been Trey Lance is way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. It's never what it's been. It's about that and balancing. Okay, you better win games this year, or else you're going to not win games and not develop your quarterback, and that's bad.
I actually think you're going to need a little bit to totally justify it because next year you're starting from scratch. I mean, you had a game and a half.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even count the half because he kind of got thrown in without knowing it was coming. Is that, people would like to see having like an upset playoff win to be like, okay, it was all worth it. Like remember the Bears made the playoffs last year, guy, against the Saints, and they lost by like 30, and everyone's like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, I agree. You can't the week the Niners make the playoffs, if that's what they do, it'll all feel worth it. The second they play a wild card game and are one and done and then turn the page, you'll go, wait, what? That all of that was for that? So Dante Johnson, by the way, who was not with the team, Kyle Shanahan said he was not with the team. Member people said personal issue. His mother died because of a heart attack. So that's why he was not with the team.
That's terrible.
That's why Ambry Thomas was starting a quarterback. That's very terrible.